Can I share something that I didn't expect? I didn't realize how much this journey would change me. Not just what I was building, but how I was growing and who I was becoming while I was building what I was building. Over the last, I'll say 6 to 8 months, starting this studio, starting my podcast, radio show, and also still doing my marketing and consulting business has really showed me who I am. I've had to confront parts of myself I didn't even know were there. So today I want to share not what I've accomplished, but what I've learned about myself in the process.
She's breaking the chains, living her life. She's changing the game. Power and beauty, rhythm and soul. African woman, she's taking control. In her 40s, she's rising high.
Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to In Her 40s Unleashes the Daniamite Experience. As usual, my name is TD, and today, as usual, I'm always talking about reflecting. It's a bit of a reflecting episode, but I think it's also celebration in a way, because it's saying that I've learned so much about myself. And in learning about myself, of course, I had to make adjustments, but at the same time, I've also had to pat myself from the back because I've stretched outside of my comfort zone. I've stretched even beyond, I'll say, some boxes that I thought were there. So today, just enjoy the journey with me as usual. So today, like I said, I want to talk about everything that's happened to me in the last 6 to 8 months. In case you are not aware, I started a production studio out of my 40. I'm a marketing person, but for the first time, I decided to lean into my creative side. And that has been an interesting journey. While doing that, I finally overcame my fear of being vulnerable, my fear of showing up, my fear of stepping into my light, and decided to do this podcast. From doing this podcast, I got the opportunity to now host my own radio show. So you can imagine. So yes, it's been a lot of wins, but it's also been a lot of growth. First of all, I think the first thing I learned, the biggest thing, is that the journey is never perfect. The second thing I also learned is that the journey is continuous. Growth is a continuous journey. Where you think you've known yourself to a certain point, when you challenge yourself to do new things, to try new things, to explore new things, you discover things about yourself that you didn't even know. Sometimes it's strength, sometimes it's resilience, sometimes it's knowing even your limits, because sometimes we think we're stronger than we are, or we're more capable than we are. And I think another thing that I learned that stayed with me is that the fact that you're capable does not mean that you should try and do everything at once. So one of the biggest things I had to learn was how to juggle all these multiple balls. And don't get me wrong, I pretty much started everything back to back to back to back. I might not advise you to do the same, but you have to do what works for you. But knowing myself, I needed to challenge myself and put myself in uncomfortable positions. Now, I told you guys before, I like to set myself up. And that meant that once I start something, I'd have to finish it. That was my biggest problem, finishing. But unfortunately, I now started doing things that put me out there way more than I would have. I wasn't just talking to people that I knew and people that I was familiar with. I was now talking to a whole larger audience. I was talking to people that I didn't know, I've never met, I've never interacted with. And that in of itself put me in a position where I had to remind myself that this was a long-term journey. And so I couldn't, it's the way they say how you train for a sprint is different from how you train for a marathon. So for me, this journey is a marathon. I know that in doing the podcast, I'm not going to immediately start being able to get followers, engagements, or even be able to monetize it in the early months. Same thing with starting a new business. You're not immediately going to start getting clients rushing you. It might happen depending on your network, depending on several factors. But just say that realistically, most businesses will take time. Because, first of all, I was doing a business that I'd never done. So I had to, first of all, reintroduce myself as being capable of doing this business to even the people that knew me, because now they're seeing me as Topper the creative person. So Topper the creative person is different from Topper the marketing person. If it's marketing, it's a no-brainer. But being a creative person, the people that knew me have to now see me in this creative light, which meant I had to showcase myself more, I had to showcase my business more, I had to showcase what we were about, the services we offered, and those kind of things. So that's when I stepped into the camera for the first time, quote unquote, officially, because I had to do a video for the space to say, this is what we did. Blah, 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 blah. So you can imagine. Yeah. And then the idea for the podcast came, and same thing. Pew, I entered inside. And I'm so happy that I've been consistent with it, even when it wasn't comfortable, even when I didn't feel like it, even when I struggled. There were days that I was like, oh God, we have to shoot again. But I'm grateful for the fact that I had learned to manage my emotions and also pick myself up, and pick myself up in the sense that I'd learned to do things that I wanted to do, even if I didn't feel like it, which meant I had to be able to put myself in the right frame of mind. Because the truth is, no matter how passionate you are about something, you are not always going to be excited to do it. You're not always going to be in the mood to do it. So you have to learn to sort of switch your own mood so that you are in the right frame of mind and you're able to do it, especially if it's something like this. So it's one thing for me to say, well, I'm working in the office, even if I'm not in a good mood, I can still get the job done. But the truth is, if I put myself in a better mood, I'll be a lot more productive and I'll probably get that job done faster and better. So it's the same thing. So with recording and sitting in front of the camera, I can't show that I'm in a bad mood or I've had a stressful day or things haven't really gone my way, because that would communicate across and that would come across to my audience. They will feed off of my vibe. So I had to learn those things, or luckily for me, I'd been learning those things gradually without realizing that they would come to bear in this new chapter of my life. And so for me, I realized that doing all these things gave me an opportunity to see myself. So it was like a mirror. I had to see myself in a different light. And I also had to take stock regularly. I couldn't afford to say, oh, I'm waiting for 3 months before I take stock. No. I had to pretty much be taking stock, if possible, every day. Then every week, then every month, then maybe quarterly. But the reality is, I had to keep taking stock of what I was doing right, while I hadn't figured out how else I could do things better, what I could improve on, and those kind of things. And that meant I had to be honest with myself, because there were days I didn't get it right. There were days I'll just be like, oh God, please, can't I be a baby girl? I just be chopping trust fund money. But alas, I keep saying I don't have trust fund money, so I had to work. I had to hustle. So here we are. But in all reality and in all seriousness, I'm grateful that I had this opportunity. And I'm grateful because it's shown me a lot of things about myself where I could improve, where I've grown, where I didn't even realize that I had grown. Like I said, I didn't realize that I'd gotten to a point where I could switch moods intentionally until I started doing this podcast, until I started doing the radio show. Because there are days I'm like, I'm not in the mood to shoot. I'm like, why want to just be a baby? I don't. But I didn't have a choice because I had commitments. I'd already said, I'm doing this. And because I'd also gotten to the point in my life where I was tired of saying I'm doing something and I don't finish. I was tired of saying, oh, I will do this, I'm excited about it. And then 3 months down the line, it fizzles out. I can't afford to do that anymore. Not just from a financial point of view, but even from a time point of view. I'm not getting any yoga. I don't really have time. I want to retire early on some beach somewhere in Maui or something, that kind of life. Yeah. So as we get on with it. But in all reality, it made me even more grounded because it showed me that I was capable of a lot more than I thought I was. And it showed me that there's no fear in work, there's no fear in hard work. It's just a matter of time. There's a planting season. I keep saying it. There's a planting season and there's a harvesting season. This is my planting season. So I have to be consistent with it. I have to give it my all so that I can reap a bountiful harvest. I don't want to wait 8 months, for example, of planting, and then at the end of the day, I don't even have enough crops to cover the cost of the planting, the amount of time, the amount of effort. So you can imagine. So you have to put everything in it. And that's where I remember there was this sermon of TD Jakes I heard, and he said something about how do you know the difference on when you're waiting in faith or when you're just waiting, which is you're just deceiving yourself. When you're waiting in faith is you've done all you possibly can and then you hand it over to God. It's different from me just expecting God to bless me without me doing the work. There's a huge difference. I can go to church from Monday to Sunday, do fasting and prayer and whatever, whatever, whatever. But if I don't put in the work, there's nothing for God to bless. Let that sink in. There's nothing for God to bless. So for me, it became a case of if I'm praying for these billions, I tell you people, billionaire dollars, I told you people, if I'm praying for these billions, I have to do the work so that God can now bless me in what I'm doing. And doing the work meant I have to give it my all, whether I feel like it or I don't feel like it. So don't get me wrong. It's not like I always give it my all. I'm still learning. And that's why I said it's a continuous journey. But in reflecting and in seeing how I'm growing and sort of changing, I can see that this is what is required. And what is required is put as much effort as you possibly can in whatever you choose to do. That's why it's important to take the time and think of what it is you want to do. Me, I finally found it. It's a few balls, but yeah, they still sort of connect. And I think that's what makes it easier, even on the days when I sort of don't feel like it. And that's what makes it more enjoyable for me because I see the results slowly but surely. It might not have turned into actual financial rewards, but I can see the results. I can see how I'm changing. If I watch the very first episode that I posted and my last episode, I can see the difference in not just how I communicate, but how I'm able to be more vulnerable with myself, how I'm able to embrace myself even more. Because as I'm speaking and sharing my experiences, I'm also learning about myself. Imagine you watching your own podcast and like, you get sense of topic, you get more sense. It happens. But the truth is, sometimes we don't even know how we think until we start to express ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that stood out to me the most when I sort of look back on this journey is that I've learned to express myself better. And that's because I have to constantly be communicating, not communicating to people that are familiar with me, but communicating to people that don't know me so they can interpret what I'm saying in different ways. Even the people that know me can still interpret it in different ways. But there's a bit of context because they know me personally. But imagine a stranger just listening to what I say. They have to interpret it through maybe their own lens, for example. So I've had to be clear in my communication so that what I want to say is properly passed on, I'll say to my audience. Yeah. So it's saying that some of these things happen subtly. They're not necessarily big changes, but they just happen slowly but gradually. And then one day you see that and be like, wow, I've changed. It's like when you start to, or when you make an intentional choice to maybe network for your business. The first few times you might be nervous, you might be unsure of yourself. Maybe even when you meet people, you don't know how to approach them or how to express who you are and what you do. But the more you do it, the more confidence you get, the less awkward you become, the more at ease you become. If possible, you probably even have like an opening line that once you meet people, you're actually like, oh, hello, my name is blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Because you've practiced it so many times, it starts to become second nature. You're no longer, I would say, afraid to talk to strangers, But those things take time. And sometimes you don't realize as you are changing because it's gradual, it's slow. It seems like it's baby steps. But it's when you look back, you see how many strides you've taken up, how far you've come. So for me, that's been this journey. It's been a journey of learning, growth, and people will say this girl has come again. Self-reflection. Yes, it's been a lot of self-reflection. Because I realize you can't do away with self-reflection, especially if you want to keep improving on yourself and who you are. And that does not mean that you wouldn't still make mistakes or you wouldn't still stumble. Because the more you take yourself out of your comfort zone, the more things you are learning. So you're bound to make mistakes. You're bound to stumble sometimes. That's part of the readjustment. Is when you learn how not to do something or when you learn something that didn't work and you try another way. You re-strategize. Sometimes you go back to the drawing board and replan whatever that initial plan was, you know. But if you don't take stock, then you're not learning as you grow. You're just moving without actually pausing to see if that movement is getting you to where you want to go. I told you people I have small sense. But on a serious note, it's been for me understanding that there's a difference between starting something and sustaining it, especially when it's not necessarily something that has an end goal in mind. So starting this podcast is not a, oh, I'm going to do a podcast for 1 year. It's pretty much a lifetime thing. So I can't necessarily say, oh, I'm going to do it up until this time and then drop it. No. I have to have the mindset of this is something I've committed to do pretty much for the rest of my life. The conversations might change, might shift, depending on how I'm also changing and shifting, or depending on my audience. So maybe I started with one podcast and I end up having 5. I don't know. Maybe they'll be inviting me for speaking engagements and things like that. So the topics, the conversations might be different, but this is just the starting point. So it's a sustenance game. And that's why I said it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I'm learning to pace myself so that I don't run out of steam, I don't run out of motivation, and I'm able to maintain the same energy that I started with. If anything, improve on it. And that in of itself is like, interesting. Sope, you have mature. Yes. Like I said, it's part of the journey. So some of those things, seeing them in myself has showed me that I've made certain progress with maybe who I was before and who I am now. And a lot of this has happened not necessarily without a full on cheering band, I would say. So along the way, I also had to learn to be my own cheerleader, which is I had to learn to celebrate my little moments. I had to learn to pat myself on the back. And at the same time, and that's why I said it doesn't mean that you ignore the parts where you didn't get it right. No. But I don't beat myself up anymore about those things. I take stock of them, I deal with them, and I move on. Previous me, oh, dwell on it. Oh, Tope, you should have. Oh, Tope, you should have. Oh, Tope, you should have. But now is a case of, okay, we should have done this. Okay, next time, what should we do that will make sure that this didn't happen? But, and we move. Once you put a plan in place, it's easier for you to move on. But when you dwell on the issue, what went wrong, what I didn't do right, you're just wasting energy. And you end up depleting even your own positive vibes, so to speak. So I had to learn that as well. And I had to learn not to let things get to me because life will not always go the way you planned. There are days, I'm sure there was one day, I did a video. There's a day when we had a guest on the show and he was stuck in traffic. First of all, we were stuck in traffic. So we started the radio show late. And then he was stuck in traffic and we couldn't get into the studio. I was already panicking because the topic was largely this focus on my guests. So it wasn't a topic I could have carried alone. As what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And he just said, hold on, wait a minute. We can do a WhatsApp call. So I sent him a message. Are you okay with us doing a WhatsApp call? And then we'll just take it from that. He was like, oh, yeah, sure. That's fine. And then I called him and I held my phone throughout to the microphone. I was talking. So yes, there were a few breaks in between, but we still ended up having a show. Imagine if I hadn't put myself in a productive state to think of alternatives. I would have just been panicking. And then I would have tried to wing the radio show. It would have come across I was winging it, or I'd have decided to cancel it, or something, and I'd have been in a very negative state because it would be a case of, Tope, imagine what happened. Oh, you should have done this, or we should have done this, next time that. But we're able to just, what are other plan B, plan B, plan B? And we moved on and we still had a show. So, yes, we started late. Yes, our guests couldn't show up in the studio, but we still ended up having a show. We did a show. It wasn't the full 1 hour, but we got a show. We got content out of it just because we're able to just remove ourselves from the situation and just deal with it real time as it's happening. And that's a lot of what I've learned about myself, that I know how to just pick myself up. And so, yes, I always used to say, even in my CV, I'll write, oh, I'm calm under pressure. I like to do that. And that's the truth. I genuinely am calm under pressure. But these past few months tested that calm under pressure. Tested it really and truly. And it made me realize that it wasn't just something I said because it sounded nice, but it was genuinely something that I was. And it was something that I could own anywhere without it being that, oh, are you sure? I gave real life examples of when things didn't go my way and I still did get frazzled. And that gave me another level of confidence that I got this. I've got this. It might be shaky at times, but I've got it. And that gave me another level of, you can say confidence at the yes, but self assuredness. Because now I know that I can find myself in situations that may seem chaotic, but I'm able to sort of regroup and bring sense and order to it. And this is not just even from a personal point of view. It's also saying that even with other people, because I've also had the chance to work with clients that when chaotic states, I would say, but me stepping in, I was able to just, guys, let's refocus. What are we trying to achieve? And then focus on what needed to be done. We can lay blame game later. But the most important thing is, what are we trying to achieve? What needs to be done? And we're able to finalize that. And then it's easier to be doing your reprimanding and whatever later. And that showed me that it's not just that I was able to control my own emotions, but I was also able to help other people control their emotions and refocus. So you get the things done. Yeah. So interestingly, like I said, that was something I was like, wow, interesting. I've grown, as they say. But on another note, I would say the visibility parts, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know why it took me so long, to be honest. Sometimes I'm like, stop it. You could have been doing this thing 5 years ago. Could have been doing this thing 10 years ago. But the truth is, I had to be ready. And that's why I say everything works when it's meant to work. If I'd started 5 years ago, I don't know if you would have been seeing this version of me. I don't even know if I would have been able to sustain it up until this point. So that's why I said, in reflecting, of course, you can't beat yourself up too much and say, oh, I should have, I should have, I should have. But the visibility part, my biggest fear was being vulnerable, talking about my personal experiences and sharing that pretty much with the world, because I don't know where this is going to get to. But once I started, it was like a no brainer. It just sort of flowed. But I'll be honest with you guys, a lot of work had to happen behind the scenes before I got to that point. So it might seem like, oh, just do it. Yes, just do it. But be prepared for it. Because the truth is, I'll be honest with you, one of the biggest fears is not just in the being vulnerable, is in how people would receive it. That was the biggest thing that sort of held me back. Because I was like, oh, would people judge me? Would people say, oh, this one is just coming and trying to be maybe a goody two shoes, know it all kind of stuff? Or some people would say, maybe her real life does not even reflect all these things that she's saying, all this kind of stuff. But until I realized that I was not in control of how people receive what I say, the only thing I was in control of was me being honest and sincere about what I said. How they receive it is not my problem. I keep saying it's a you problem. It's not a me problem. So how I communicate is my problem. So I had to realize, or I had to learn what I wanted to communicate, how I wanted to communicate. So my tone, my voice, my vibe, my energy, all those things matter. And I had to be true to myself. I can't fake what I'm not. I can fake it, but just for a short while. but I can't really fake what I'm not because I don't want to start something that I can't sustain. I don't want to come across as that person that is high energy all the time. I'm not that person. I'm also not your comedian or skit maker kind of person. No, not necessary. Yes, can I make people laugh? Sometimes, yeah. Am I fun and bubbly? Yeah, sometimes. Am I reflective? Hell yeah, sometimes. So it's a combination of all these things. And I had to realize that what made me different was my unique perspective on life, my unique outlook on life, on my experiences. And I had to stay true to that so that when I communicate, it's the same across board. It's not one way today, another way tomorrow. So whether I have a guest or it's just me, it's the same flow, it's the same vibe, it's the same. Is it for everybody? Maybe not. So, like I said, visibility requires vulnerability. And I was so scared of being vulnerable. I didn't realize that I was holding myself back from being visible. I was holding myself back from putting myself out there. Because the truth is, regardless of what platform you're being visible on, you have to show up. So, whether you're showing up as a business owner, as a content producer, as a radio host, as whatever it is that you're doing, even as a salary earner, you have to show up in one way or the other. So you might not be visible on a huge platform like maybe doing a podcast, but you're visible to the people around you. So you have to choose how you want to come, how you want to show up. So in being vulnerable means that it's a lot of things. So my vulnerability, for example, might be sharing my experiences. But my vulnerability also had to be that I had to accept that I didn't know everything. I had to accept that I'm going to learn on the job. I'm going to learn as I go on. That's why I said it's okay to make mistakes. Remember, there was an episode that talks about failures. I had to embrace failure because it wasn't failure. It's just lessons from life. And so a lot of all those mindset changes needed to happen or were happening without me realizing it because those were the things that needed to sort of shift so that I can be that person that can sustain this because it's a beautiful journey, but you have to be committed to it. You have to be committed. We've done, like I say, we've done what, 6 months of the podcast? Yeah, 6 months. I've not made one shishu, one night that we have not made, but we're doing it, we're going on with it. And that's because we realize that it's something that would build over time. Sometimes it might be just one viral clip that just changes the course of your entire future, but you don't know which one it would be. So just keep going. Just keep going. One day, maybe one popular blogger might just repost my video. Change up for me. You never know. But the truth is, you have to keep showing up because even if you get that one viral clip, then people go to your page. And then what else is there? There's nothing else there. Is at that point you want to be struggling and be saying, oh, what do I want to be doing? What do I want to be posting? How do we want to be posted? But luckily for us, we've gotten to do the work. So if we get to that point where we now maybe become viral or I blow, ah, we're not scrambling. We already know what direction we're going. We already know how we're going. So it makes it easier. You just continue on the journey. What changes is you might now have maybe more resources to do better or to do more, to expand. Yes, those things would happen. And sooner rather than later. But you have to stay consistent. And you have to stay consistent because when you blow, it's another kind of demon that you're going to have to deal with. When you blow, you will learn a lot more about yourself than when you are not blow. Because I keep telling people, have you thought about the kind of person you want to be when you have money? So imagine that you had all the money that you wanted and you could afford pretty much anything. So I'm not talking about all the excesses, but basic stuff. You can travel as often as you want, have a fantastic house, you can pay for your children's school fees, do all the good things in life, and still have a bit of extras. What kind of person would you be? Some people have not thought about it. So when they now finally blow, they might start misbehaving, they might start doing certain things that people will say are out of character because they didn't prepare themselves for that blowing. It just happened. And then they are now trying to figure out who they are after they had blown. Yeah, I know where I'm going to be. I know. Like I told you, Vico, yes, I will do small loud, but I'll still be the same person. That's when I might say, oh, that salon that used to fix my nails, I didn't really like them. There's now one other one. Maybe that one they give us champagne and green tea. Yes, let me to step up small. Let me to feel spere. Yeah, you might do those kind of little things, but it still shouldn't change the essence of who you are. Which is why I'm grateful to God that I've been privileged to sort of know who I am ish before my blowing phase comes. So, yes, I've been comfortable. I can't say I've really blown. I've had a very comfortable life. I've worked hard. I've survived and I've been okay. I've been comfortable and whatnot. But in all fairness, I've not blown. Not that kind of blow. The type I'm talking about. You want to say billionaire in dollars. Stop it. Yeah. Me and Elon Musk will be arguing out in the same places. They say Monaco Grand Prix. I'm there on my yacht. So I just be like, oh, we're just chilling, sunbathing in Monaco. Their daddy's daddy. No, I never do anything. But just saying, those things can happen and should happen. That's part of enjoying what you've worked for. But like I said, it shouldn't change who you are because who you are is as important for people around you. Especially for someone like me who keeps communicating, oh, I'm learning from my life experiences and this and that and this and that. If I'm not staying grounded, I've lost the plot. I've lost the plot because staying grounded is the fundamental of everything that I'm trying to achieve. And that's why I say for me is seeking alignment with who I truly am. I want to be my authentic self in any setting, whether it's a formal setting, informal setting, big boy setting, regular people setting, even in the masses. I love churches. I keep saying it. I'm saying it's like I used to be an area girl in my former life. I don't know. I used to be an area girl in my former life. I suspect that, I always be that grew up in Mushin, all those kind of places. I'll be the one yeah, my former life. I suspect it. But thank God, maybe this life, God just sprinkle smooth touchness. Just sprinkle, sprinkle. But really, it's just saying that staying grounded is important to me. So regardless of what I achieve, success-wise, financial-wise, I still want to remain that same person. I still want to be that person who's approachable, who's down to earth, who still just and laugh, who still go and sit down and eat amala in the buka, the same way I go to a posh restaurant and drop 1 million just to have one steak and spend. Yeah. Yeah. I want to have a mix and match of both and enjoy all without limiting myself to anything. And that's part of why I also realized in this journey that money wasn't the goal. I used to think money was the goal, but money isn't the goal. It's just the means to an end. What I want is freedom. I want the freedom of options. I want the freedom to be able to pick and choose the type of life I want to live. And for me to do that, I need financial stability and I need financial freedom. But that's not the end goal. Because if money is your end goal, how much is enough? I can't put a limit to how much I want to make. I can't. I can't say I want to make $1 billion. What if my destiny was 200 billion and then I've limited myself with 1 billion? So, what if I've limited myself by pegging an amount to how much I want to make in my lifetime? I don't want to put that amount to it, but I know why I want to make money, and that changes the motivation because I'm not chasing money, I'm chasing that life after money. I don't want to just have money for money's sake. So yes, I might joke and laugh about, oh, I want to be ladies that lunch. I'm just sitting there and not doing anything. Is a lie. I don't want to be that person. I want to still actively be doing the things that I enjoy doing. I want to actively give back to society, to myself, to the people around me, not just financially, but even from the wealth of experience that I've gathered. There's no point having people around you if you don't make an impact because you're learning from people older than you, people younger than you, richer, poorer, whatever it is. So you too, you have to also let people to learn from you in how you do things, how you carry yourself. So you might not necessarily have a podcast, but people are watching. Some people are emulating you without you realizing it because they see how you do things. I like, oh, I like the way this person carries herself, or I like the way this person deals in certain situations and all those kind of stuff. So it's nice. But money is not the goal. It's not the end goal. It's a means to an end. I want it to allow me have options. I want to be able to say I want to go to my beach house on a Thursday. I've closed for the week comfortably without worrying that, if I don't work tomorrow. I want to be able to say no to a client because our values don't align. I want to be able to say no to a brand because I'm like, I can't promote this regardless of how much you want to pay me because personally, my values don't align with this brand. But a lot of times, because we're focused on money, we don't even stop to ask if this reflects on who I am. So I saw a post today actually, and it was quite self-reflective. It was content producer. She was talking about a lot of brands that she turned down because she felt like, "Ah, this wasn't aligned with." Now she gave an example. She was like, "Oh, there was this woman who is a mom of three. She does mom-centered content. And then she now was promoting betting brand." She was like, how does that align with like, so she was saying that she used herself as an example. Like, I've seen what this has done to people. I've seen what gambling has done to families. And so there's no way I can consciously say I'm promoting this just because they want to give me maybe 5 million or 10 million. That's so it's not because I didn't need the money or that money would not have been great. But I had to ask myself, is this who I am? Does this reflect on the person that I am? And once that answer is no, it's easier to turn down. So your team might not understand. If you have a manager, that one might even fight you because all he's thinking about is his own commission, his share. But once you're able to stand on your truth, people will adjust. People will adjust. Yes, you'll miss out on some deals. Yes, you will not be invited into certain conversations, but those conversations were not even for you in the first place. You can't miss what's not for you. Those conversations were not for you. You can't say, oh, I wish they had called. If they called you, whoa, will you still say yes? No, you just want to be called for calling sake. So certain things, they're not for you. And that's why I said I want to have the kind of money that I can still stand on my own values. And those things start before you have the money. It's not when you have the money you want to now start changing the narrative. It starts from even when you don't have money, because that's when you stand on your principles. That's when you stand on your values. As uncomfortable as it might be, as sad as it might seem, as tough as it might seem, but you're able to stand by it. I have a friend who keeps saying, I like your life. You always seem as if you don't have worries, you don't have money problems, you don't have. I said, it took me a long time to get to this. It took me a long time. Before, I don't have no money. Everybody around me will know. The way I will be reacting, the way I will be talking, you will know. You will know. So I might not necessarily be the good morning, what's good about the morning, but I'm just snapping and I'm just irritable because there's no money. So any small thing, you can tell me, we need to buy toilet roll and say, what happened to the toilet roll? So you people are very wasteful. Is it the toilet roll's problem? No. But because you don't have money for toilet roll at that point in time, you now start saying they are wasting the toilet roll. Or you just start, you know. But I had to get to a point where, like I said, I had to balance my emotions. So it wasn't about what was happening around me. It's more about what's happening inside of me. So that peace, that calmness, I had to find it for myself. And that's why I said, even in this journey, it has sort of helped me because there'll be moments where I've sat down and asked myself, are you doing the right thing? Are you sure? Hey, this thing will take a while, oh, we'll do this. Oh. In that process, instead of worrying, I just changed direction. So I realized there was a point I was overly focused on building the podcast. But I already knew that the podcast was not going to bring me money they needed. And then I forgot that I had a business or businesses that could bring money, which is the production studio and my consulting business. These were two things that were sort of low hanging fruits, and I could at least actively start pushing. But because I was so focused on building the podcast, I forgot the business. But in my reflecting, I realized that, Auntie, hello. This podcast is a long term thing. Oh. How about the ones that can? And then I had to re strategize and now start to put effort into bringing trickles of money in, even if it's not big money, at least little drops of water. Starts that pump going while I'm building this. So this one might be the one that might make me the billionaire. But I need to sustain myself until I get to that spot. And that meant that I needed to realize that quickly. And that's why I said I didn't necessarily have the luxury of doing 3 months review. I had to do that review continuously. And I had to build discipline. Discipline is emotional. Let me just tell you, it's very emotional. As much as it's not just physical, because physical is the taking action and doing what you need to do. But the emotional part is putting yourself in a frame of mind to do what you need to do. And that's what makes the difference. Because sometimes you do what you need to do, but you're not doing it with the right frame of mind. I had to learn the emotional part of discipline, which is I had to be able to put myself in the frame of mind to do those things. So whether I liked it or not, it needed to be done, would do it. That still did not change that I procrastinated sometimes. I still do. I can't lie. But I knew what I could procrastinate on and what I couldn't. And I also knew how far I could procrastinate. So I was no longer in a situation where I was procrastinating indefinite. So for example is maybe I'm meant to shoot on Monday. I can procrastinate to shoot on Tuesday. But I know that I have to shoot by Tuesday at the latest. Or say I have to shoot by Wednesday at the latest. So no matter how much I want to drag, no matter how much I want to do whatever, I knew that I had this window to dilly-dally. And that was another thing that, for me, was a huge change because I always saw procrastination as a crutch. But now I realize that I can use it to my advantage. So it might seem like I'm procrastinating, but what I'm doing is I'm delaying that particular task. While I'm procrastinating on one particular task, what else am I getting done? So I might be procrastinating on this one, but then I'm asking myself, what else can I do while I'm not yet in the right frame of mind for this? So I sit and say, oh, okay, you know what? Let's look at the business. Who have I not spoken to? Who told me to call him back or send a message another day? Who do I need to follow up with? I can do those things because it doesn't necessarily require me to maybe dress up and show up and go out. So I sit on my phone and I'm checking, this person said I should send him a message. Let me prompt him again. Say, I sent you proposal, you not gotten back to me, or I sent you costing, you not gotten back to me. So I was utilizing my downtime. And that meant that I was able to juggle my multiple balls. Because if I'm not in the mood to shoot my podcast, I can be in the mood to plan out maybe the scripts for the radio show, or even the podcast itself. I might be in the mood, or I can put myself in the mood to do my accounts and finances, check my books. I can be in the mood to review what I've done this week, for example. So I was finding other things to do while I was procrastinating on one thing. And that changed discipline for me because I always saw discipline as this rigid thing. Like you have to set a timetable and stick to it. No, it was flexible for me. And that flexibility was in my control. So I might have 5 tasks on my to-do list, let's say for a day. I was in control of how I did those tasks. The most important thing is they needed to be done by the end of the day. But which ones I did first, which ones I did last was in my control. So I did not have to stick to any particular regimen. All I needed to know was I need to get these 5 things done. Mentally, emotionally, I can now plan how I'm doing those things and put myself in that right frame of mind to get them done. So it was not just saying, oh, you have to be disciplined in that military regiment kind of frame of mind. It's more that you have to be disciplined because now you know why you're doing these things. It changes how you see the word discipline. It's no longer a control master, it's not your friend. Because discipline becomes that thing that helps you achieve the goals. And I learned that. Interesting. I see. The lady above, I said, who has abducted? I led son. And I said, that was a game changer for me because even while I didn't realize those shifts were happening, talking about it now and doing that full on reflection just shows me how I was able to just stay the course because it was no longer about you must do this. It was more about we're doing this because we're trying to achieve this. We're doing this because we're trying to get. It's like I keep using the example if you're trying to go somewhere. If I'm trying to go to Ikorodu, it didn't matter whether I was going to go by ferry, by train, by road, by Uber, by whatever. The main thing is I need to get to Ikorodu, full stop. So the how, you can plan that out. The when and everything, you plan that out. But as long as that end goal is in your mind, you would find a way. And it's the same thing with life. It's the same thing in any business or any idea that you're trying to bring to life. You have to just find the way. Once you define what the goal is that you're trying to achieve, it makes it a lot easier to just get on with it. Just move, like take the first step. And like I said, it wasn't always perfect. I'm the kind of person, I'm a perfectionist. So I like things, everything to be in place, everything to be figured out, everything to be planned out. My background is strategy. So you can imagine, and that itself is not a bad thing. But I had to learn how to not let it be a disadvantage. So I had to start scared. I had to start unsure. I had to start without a full rollout plan. But I started, and I think that was the biggest thing that just changed everything. I just started. It was I keep saying, it's a fuck it, let's do it. What's the worst that can happen? If I can think of what the worst thing that can happen is, then let me think of the best thing that can happen. So the best thing that can happen, I've told you people, and they will be inviting me to come and speak on global stages. Maybe I'll even go for a few presidents' inaugurations. Brands will be calling me left, right, and center. I'll be speaking for organizations. They'll be paying me to fly first class to go and talk for 1 hour, all those kind of things. I'll be coaching world leaders. I was like, that's the best. That's very the best. That's the best that I can imagine for now. There's still so much more that can sort of offshoots from that. And that's saying a lot. With my production studio, I can start making movies, documentaries, and all those kind of like, oh, you people, you don't even know. Plenty places. So I stopped focusing on the worst that could happen. The worst that could happen is for me, so I can plan my plan B, C, D. It's like when you do a SWOT analysis, your strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. You have to review where things might not work or the things that you possibly should look out for. That's the worst that can happen. So worst case scenario is I run out of money before I start making work. That's the worst case scenario. What can I do so that that does not happen? Yoruba people will say tepa moshe. That means increase your hustle. So I have to put myself out there more, network more, let people know what I'm doing, showcase what I can do, maybe do 1 or 2 free services or do some minimal, I'd almost say maybe like promo kind of stuff just to get people in the door, just to get people to experience your service. That's fine. That's you now increasing your chances of getting clients or getting money through the door. That's in your control. So the worst that can happen is still in your control to change. If you don't think of it, then you'll be living in a bubble, so to speak. You'll be living in a fantasy world because you don't want to accept reality that things sometimes might not go your way. And that's a lie. That's why they say man proposes and God just laughs. Because he's looking at you and just say, oh, you never know anything. This business, you will cry when before I give you money. That's okay. It's part of it. And so for me, being disciplined is more being consistent, learning to be consistent. So my entire being had to embrace discipline. I always saw it as something that was scary. I always saw it as something that was rigid. I've always said I don't want to be that rigid person. In as much as I like to plan my time, I still don't want to be that person that is bound by you have to do, you have to do, you have to do, you have to do. No. I want it to be a bit flexible, but I still want to be able to achieve my goals. And I don't want to be overwhelmed by it. That's the entire premise of my what I'm trying to achieve with my life. I want to get a lot of things done, but I don't want to be overwhelmed with the things I have to do. That means I want to do it with ease. I want to do it with peace. I want to do it calmly. I want to do it while enjoying myself. And that means I have to be more organized, have to be more structured so that as I'm doing those things, I'm not stressed out all the time. So I started multiple things, yes, but I'm still managing those things. And fortunately, maybe because they correlate to a large extent, but it gives me room to sort of attend to each one by one. Like I said, it's still a journey. I'm still learning, but I'm becoming better at it because I'm no longer frazzled and I'm no longer scared. Yes, one ball might drop today. Is okay. We'll pick it up. It's not a breakable ball. We'll pick it up. It's like tennis balls. You're juggling. Is one drops, it will bounce back. Yes, we'll pick it up and start again. So being that version of myself just sort of came out slowly but surely. Now I'm sitting and I'm like, so Firu. Yes, it makes me proud. It makes me happy that these changes happened. But in all honesty, I put in the work. Those changes just didn't happen. I put in the work. Whether I realized it or not, I put in the work. I spent a lot of time learning about myself. I spent a lot of time putting myself in uncomfortable situations. And I spent a lot of time adjusting. And that adjustment is what enabled the growth to happen. That adjustment is not always comfortable and is not always pleasant. Your old version would always try and pull you back. I keep saying that the old version of you would always try and pull you back. It's like saying that maybe if you're a smoker and you want to stop smoking, you would have cravings until you finally get to the point where your body has adjusted. You have those withdrawal symptoms until you get to the point where your body has sort of adjusted. And then you're able to now do without, maybe go a whole day without smoking and not feeling like, I need a smoke. Oh, I needed this. Those adjustments need to happen, and that uncomfortable, you have to be okay with the uncomfortable phases, the adjustment phases. That's the growth, because your body is changing. You mentally you are changing, psychologically you are changing, emotionally you're changing. Allow it happen. Sometimes it's confusing, but embrace the confusion. Embrace the confusion. It gives you confidence. It's like when you've gone through a storm and you overcame it, you know that you can go through another storm like that. You know. It's not a case of I think I can. It's now that I know that I went through down. Bring it on. If you'll be the one challenging life, say bring it on. I take you on. Because you're confident that now I know that I can overcome certain things. Now I know that I can handle certain things. Now I know that I can deal with certain things. Have I dealt with everything in life? No, not necessarily. But so far, so good. Yeah. So put in the work. It's nice. It sounds nice, but it's tough. I keep saying let's be honest, it's tough at times. It's confusing at times. It can seem very yaga at times. But the reality is, like I keep saying, as long as you have an end goal in mind, and your end goal should be about you, the type of life you want to live, the type of person you want to be. It's not about how much money I want to have. So, yes, those can be sub goals. They are sub goals. The kind of house I want to live in, the kind of car I want to drive, all those kind of things, they are sub goals. Those are not the goals. The main goals are, who do I want to be as a person? What kind of life do I want to live? What kind of impact do I want to make in the world? Those are the kind of questions I like to ask myself, because it's those things that will propel me to now make the money that I need to make to live that life that I want. So I'm not focusing on the tough parts. I'm not focusing on the roadblocks. I'm focusing on the end goal, which is I want to be this person. I want to live this kind of life. I want to do these kind of things. So we go through whatever difficulties we have to go through. That's part of life. If a woman is pregnant, she has to carry that baby for 9 months before she can finally celebrate having a bouncing baby boy or a bouncing baby girl. She cannot disappear those 9 months. Even with all the technology and advancements in science and whatnot, we've still not been able to shorten that process. If Igbo people could, they would have, but we still have to go through it. So life in itself is a process, and I've had to embrace the process, which is difficult at times, it's confusing at times. There are a lot of times I'm not sure, and there are a lot of times I have to ask for help. Because in asking for help, it means that I don't know, and I'm okay with being vulnerable. Because being vulnerable, like I said, it's easy to say, oh, this podcast is just talking and blah, blah, blah. That's not the only way you can be vulnerable. Sometimes it's asking for help. Sometimes it's saying that, look, I can't do this alone. I need support. Sometimes it's saying, look, I'm struggling. How can you help me? How can you support me? Might be financial, might be emotional, might be physical, might be even knowledge wise. Like I said, I didn't know anything about shooting, production per se, but I'm learning on the job. But I had to employ the people that knew so that I can now learn from them. I can't employ people like me that don't know. Then all of us are confused together. What's the problem? Come on. So I had to employ people that know more than me. Then I can learn from them. So I think another thing I learned in this journey is that growth changes your relationships. And I think I'd spoken about that in a couple of episodes. Even in this season, I think maybe episode 6 or so, growth changes your relationships. And this relationships is very broad. It changes your relationships with your friends, not always in a dramatic way, with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, with even acquaintances. Like I said, it's not always in a dramatic way. Sometimes it's subtle. Your time changes, your energy changes, your priorities change. And that naturally might create some distance with the people that you know or the people that you're familiar with. And I've had to learn to accept that. And I would say that meant that I might not be able to go everywhere that I'm invited to, for example. I might not be able to honor everybody's invitation. I might not be able to attend to my friends' demands all the time. I might not be able to be there for them every time they want me to. I would create time for them, but it might not be at the time they want. I remember, I think I made an example of maybe someone calling you when you're in a busy mood or you're in a different frame of mind. And you already know that, well, maybe this person wants to talk about something or vent about something. I can't give you what you want right now, but can we do this conversation maybe later in the day when I'm done with my day? Then I'll call you. Then I can sit down on the phone with you for 1 hour or 2 hours and we can talk about whatever it is. But I had to learn to reprioritize those things because if I pick up that call and attend to you, you might change my energy for the rest of the day. You might change my mood for the rest of the day. And I don't want that to happen because that means that I'm attending to you at my own detriment. Ah, stop it. No. I've learned to be more selfish. I love it. And the reason why I say I love it, because I also had to learn that being selfish was not necessarily a bad thing. It just meant that you were choosing you. Because what I realized is most people are choosing them. And because, especially if you're like an empath, you're someone who's always considering other people, sometimes you do that at the detriment of yourself. So someone asks you for a favor and you just say yes before you've even thought, oh, can I do this or can I not do it? Or to what extent can I even do it? But because I'm learning to choose me, I'm learning to say no sometimes and not feel bad about it. And that in of itself, for me, it's a leap. For some people, they've always chosen themselves. So to them, it's like, normal. But for me, I had to learn that. I had to grow into that. And I had to not feel guilty about it. Because like I said, it wasn't selfishness for selfishness' sake. It was selfishness because I had to focus on me. And I have to prioritize me. And that meant I had to put the things I was trying to achieve as my priorities. Anything else is secondary. Anything that helps me achieve those goals would also follow a priority. But if it has nothing to do with helping me achieve those goals, then it becomes secondary. I have to plan for it. When I'm done with priority 1, then I can have time for priority 2 and priority 3. I'll go. So I needed to learn to reprioritize where I focused my energies, where I focused my time, my attention, and those kind of stuff. So that I was ensuring that I was actively and intentionally working towards my goals. So that's where the selfishness for me came into play. I had to make my goals the priority. I had to become more intentional about myself and choosing me a lot of the time. So, of course, you would still compromise sometimes. Of course, you would bend for people. But it's saying that you don't lose sight of that. And that's why it's important to know what it is that you're working on, what you're trying to achieve. Because when you're clear on those, it becomes easier to focus on them. It's no longer that they're just making excuses because you don't want to do something. It now becomes, I can't go for that party. So I might not necessarily tell you why I can't come for your party, but I know why I can't go for that party. So I might make an excuse that sounds nice to you. Because sometimes when you're too honest, people can't necessarily handle it sometimes. So you have to also be a bit diplomatic, which is okay. But just say. So it's saying that you have to know what is important to you and what is helping you get to the goals that you set for yourself. And that's where for me I said I had to become more selfish because I had to take of myself first in most things. So yes, I still compromise. Yes, I still beg. Yes, I still. So that's why I say your friendships will shift because when you learn to say no, some people will like it. When you start to have boundaries, some people will like it. When you change, some people will like it. It's like say maybe I use the example of maybe if you're a smoker or say you're a drinker and you have a group of friends that you do this with. If you stop doing it, it's harder to hang around those people. So you see where the dynamics automatically just changes. They're still your guys, but it's harder to hang around it because that thing that used to bond you people is no more there. So you have to sort of change friends, at least until you are comfortable. You can't say you are trying to stop smoking and you're still hanging around smokers. It will be tougher. So yes, you might still be able to do it, but you just put more pressure on yourself. But if you now start to hang around, say, non-smokers, it becomes easier because you now become the only person that is excusing yourself to maybe go and smoke outside every time you guys hang out, as against it being something that all of us were doing. So you see where sometimes your friendships and relationships change. Is the way I also mentioned that I also had to start being around people who are also driven. I have to start embracing being around successful people. I had to start getting comfortable being around rich people, not just rich people, wealthy people. If that's who I'm trying to be, I have to be around those people. I have to observe the way they talk, the way they move, the way they carry themselves. Those things matter. You don't want to be the one-eyed king in a land of the blind. If you move out of that your land of the blind, you will see that other people have two eyes. Some people have contacts. Some people are wearing glasses. So you see that there's more to life. And so that's why some of your relationships will change because you are also changing. You're not the same person again. Some people might not like that. Some people would appreciate it. Some people will support you. Some people will not support you. You have to be okay with that. It has nothing to do with them. It's your journey. So it's up to you. If you don't like yourself, you can't expect people to like you. And don't explain anything to anybody. They'll be all right. Everybody's gonna be all right. It's about you. Anybody else, they will adjust. You can't be explaining to people, oh, I'm changing, oh, things are happening, oh, so I'll not be rolling with you again, or I have to be rolling with MDC. How do you say that to somebody that is your friend? Let me be your friend for 20 years. You don't say those things, they just sort of happen. That's why I say some changes are subtle. They're not necessarily conversations you say, oh, we can't be friends again because now I stop smoking, oh, I don't drink again, oh, so I cannot be hanging out with you. How do you say that? You don't say that. It just gradually, before you realize, I haven't seen this person in 3 months, so I haven't seen this person in, it happens. And you have to be okay with it. So you have to also learn that those changes are happening, whether you like it or not, because you're doing what needs to be done. If you're not taking steps, you're not seeing more, you're not discovering. It's like walking on the streets. If you start from house 1, if you don't walk up to house 30, you will not see what the different houses look like between house 1 and house 30. So even if someone tells you, oh, there's one house that has grey gate and pink fence, or there's one house that has purple gate, and they're telling you, but until you start walking, then you start to see them. Then you start to experience them. It's the same thing with life. Until you start taking action, you start to experience new things. You start to discover yourself more. And in that discover yourself, you have to embrace it. Embrace it. The good, the bad, the ugly. Embrace it. When I started being selfish, I struggled with it. But I learned to embrace it. And I learned to be okay with it. And now I'm okay with it. Now I can say no Full stop. I'm not explaining why I'm saying no. No is a complete sentence, as they say. So I love it. I love it. I think another thing I noticed, I think I'd mentioned is that this platform is a mirror. It gave me one of the most unexpected things that I didn't realize was it didn't just give me a voice. It gave me a mirror. It gave me a mirror to be able to see myself. Like I said, it's easy for me to go back and watch my different podcast episodes. I sort of see how I've grown as a person. And that was why I remember when we first shot, I think we shot maybe 5 or 6 episodes. But then I told my guys, I was like, pause. Part of the whole point of this podcast is showing the journey. And so if we block shoot everything, the audience won't see how I'm changing. Even I won't see how I'm changing. Because all I would have done is I would have used the topper version of 6 months ago to shoot a whole season. And then you won't have seen those changes because those changes are happening in how I'm communicating, in what I'm communicating. Because as I'm experiencing things, I'm getting ideas or maybe topics to talk about, conversations that I feel like, oh, these are things that we should talk about. Maybe these are things that people are shying away from talking about, or these are things that I am experiencing and I'd love to share with people. That realization came in the process of doing. If I planned from the beginning, well, I planned to do block shoots. But after we did the first 3, 4, 5 episodes, I was like, And then we paused. So we released everything before we now. So I think we started shooting again from week 5. At that point, I'd experienced certain things. People had called me, people had sent messages, people had given me feedback. So by the time I was recording again, it was a different version of me that was recording. I'd gotten feedback, I'd gotten messages, phone calls. It had changed me. I'd also gotten more comfortable with doing this. So those little things happen. And I only realized them because now I'm lucky enough that I have something I can go back and look at to now see those subtle changes, to now see, all those kind of things. So, like I said, it's a mirror. It gave me a chance to be able to see myself from from an objective point of view. So imagine watching yourself as what's that word now? Like a third party, let me say. So is I'm watching my podcast as if this is a podcast I stumbled on. If I was just a fan or someone in the audience, how would I receive this podcast? How would I? And it made me know that I was on the right track because I felt like if I was my ideal audience, then I felt like, okay, yeah, doing well. Let's put it that way. You're doing well. Yeah, yeah. So if you pat yourself on the back, as much as possible, you need it because there will be moments where you question yourself, you question some of your choices. So learn to celebrate yourself as well. And it gave me a lot of thank you moments because it made me more aware of who I was and how I think. And I'm grateful for that. And I also realized that action gives you clarity, or rather, clarity comes from action. I used to think that you needed all the clarity before you take action. But in doing some of all these things scared, in doing some of all these things unsure, I realized that you become clearer as you go along. The path reveals itself the further along you go. And that is a comfortable thing to know. Because for someone who always wants things to be perfect before I start, knowing that I won't have all the answers before I start is a very comforting feeling. So the fear that would hold me back normally doesn't have as much of a hold on me because now I know that I don't need to have everything figured out. If I have 50% figured out, we start. We can be adjusting as we go along, but we start. And that 50% is you have thought of the pros and cons. You have weighed your options and those kind of stuff. So I don't need to have all the full blueprints written out. If I have it done halfway, 60%, we're good to go. Let's start. We'll keep adjusting and learning as we go. And that's why episode 1, I say, I don't know this thing. Oh. I'm just starting this thing. Oh. So I will make mistakes. I will tabon sometimes. Yeah, it's part of it. We're learning, we're growing. Beautiful. I love it. So a lot of the times you figure things out while you're doing the work. The best inventors, scientists, and all those kind of people, they could not have gotten it right from the first plan. They had to keep making mistakes over and 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 over again before they finally got it right. You think it's the first person that had the idea for mobile phone that got it? Probably not. Probably not. So it took a lot of trials and errors, a lot of adjustments before you get a final finished product. So why do I want to wait to get it right before I get that finished product? So I keep learning as I'm going. I'll keep fine tuning as I'm going. I keep polishing this coal until it now becomes that bright diamond, that shiny diamond that is now worth so much. So yeah, I started as a coal, but now I don't diamond small. Now is to increase the carats of the diamond. That's where we are going now. So you can see it's progress and I love it. And I did realize that I needed to take action for clarity to follow. I didn't realize that the journey is in the steps that you take. You can have the perfect blueprint, you can have the perfect plan, you can have the perfect strategy, but until you start to do, before you even know if that plan or strategy is achievable. So sometimes you set goals, but when you start, you adjust the goal. You adjust the goal. You adjust the goal. Because now you're becoming more in it. It's more realistic because now you're in it. It's no more something that I'm thinking of or something that I'm researching in the mind. It's now something that I'm living. It's my day to day. I've entered inside, so I have to keep adjusting, keep learning, keep shifting. And that was beautiful. That was beautiful. And I'll be honest, this is not just about women. So of course, I'm a woman. I keep saying I'll speak from my perspective, but this also happens as even to guys. And it's for anybody that is building anything meaningful, anybody who is intentionally or actively trying to be a better version of themselves or trying to do something, you go through this kind of internal shifts. A lot of it is internal, not necessarily external. A lot of it is internal. That's why sometimes you don't even realize when those shifts are happening until you take stock over a period of time and you realize, oh, wow. Or maybe something happens and you react a different way, like, oh, wow. Maybe former me, I would have flared up, or former me would have been this or that or that. So those things are just happening under the surface, but they're happening and they're changing you and they're hopefully making you better. That's it, people. How small says. So I would say if there's one thing these last few months have shown me is that growth is not always loud. In fact, a lot of times it's not loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. But a lot of the time is deeply personal. And you remember when I spoke, I think, on the episode around loneliness, is that it's a solo journey. Yes, you might have support. Yes, you might have people helping you, guiding you, and whatever, but it's a solo journey. That's why it's internal shifts. A lot of the things that change happen to you. So you have to go through that experience and you have to embrace it and be okay with it. And so growth changes you in ways that you can't ignore. In fact, other people can't ignore it because they start to see it, they start to notice it. They might not notice immediately, or they might not even tell you immediately they notice. But believe me, they are noticing. They're seeing those changes. And I feel like I know I'm still becoming, but I'm more aware than I've ever been about myself. The journey is not over because it's continuous. The journey only ends when you die. But this version that is revealing itself I'm excited and I'm happy to see it. And it shows me that there's even so much more that can be revealed. So, yes. I told you people, billionaire in dollars is on the way toward. But to be honest, I'm still becoming that version of myself. But this episode, like I said, is self reflective in a way, but it's also acknowledging moments and things that have sort of changed in me and shifted in me a little bit. And I'm grateful that I even have the opportunity to experience some of these things because if I wasn't taking stock, I might not have even realized some of these things were happening. But I'm grateful that I've been able to enjoy it and embrace it. So, yeah, I'm excited. So, my beautiful people, this is it. You can't be afraid of change, can't be afraid of growth. It will be confusing at times, you'll be uncomfortable, but best believe it would make you even better. It will make you even stronger. It will make you even more confident of who you are, confident of your capabilities as well. And I think that's what it's doing to me. So that's why I can tell you now that, oh, I want to be sitting with MD CEOs of big organizations, not my type of MD CEO, small cup. No. The ones that are MD CEO of big conglomerates, people that are sitting on boards of multinational companies. Those are the kind of people I want to be learning from. Because those people, before I used to be intimidated by them because I didn't think I could sit in their presence. Now I know that I can sit in their presence because I have value to offer and I know who I am or who I'm trying to be. So I'm more confident. So if those opportunities come, I won't shy away from them. I would embrace them because now I know, of course. But my people, on a serious note, it's been fantastic having this conversation with you guys. Love you and see you on the next episode. Bye.